I'm just looking around the audience to make sure this is appropriate. Um, Michael Fassbender has a lot of power over women and sometimes men, and in this case animals. Um, every time for the horse sequence where Jane meets Michael for the first time, every time Michael got on the horse would get a gigantic erection.
It happened 3 times.
It happened 3 times. And this is the thing, it's not something you could just like, oh, isn't that cute, let's shoot. It's like we couldn't shoot because it looked like the horse had a 5th leg. And so Michael would have to go and walk the horse around, or someone else would have to walk the horse so that the horse would get less excited. Come back, we'd put Michael back on it.
And it would happen again.
And it would happen again.
Even in rehearsals it happened.
Even in rehearsal, it was a different horse. So I have pictures.
Oh my goodness. All right, let's turn our attention to another questioner in the audience, please. All right, this lady right here in the black.
Hi, this is for Mia. How did you decide how much emotion to show on your face versus leaving it up to the viewer?
That's a good question.
What was it?
It's a good one.
How much emotion did you decide to show on your face in terms of the production for the viewers? Yes.
Yeah. I don't
Nice,
know.
That's a good question.
I don't know. I think that I wanted to have a certain trust in the audience, and also I think the challenge with Jane is taking a piece of literature that from start to finish, 500 pages is her internal monologue, and everything that we know from the story comes from her thoughts and her ideas and everything that she's experiencing. So the challenge was sort of keeping a certain amount of that intensity and that thought that's going on inside of her all the time. She's a real observer. And then, I don't know, I guess I'm not so conscious of what I what I show, but I hope that it comes through when I feel certain things in the moment. So.
All right. Let's see. Anybody else? Well, I see your hand, so I'm going to tell you to ask the next question, please.
My name is Laurel, and my son Nico made me promise, he's in a screenwriting workshop tonight, to ask you what the critical turning points in your career have been so far.
Critical turning points in the career so far.
Is that for me or for Mia?
In terms of, like...
And specifically, in what way? Related to this film particularly, or?
You know, as your career has evolved to bring you to this point.
Well, I started off in Australia when I was about 15, and my first American project was in treatment, and that was the first thing that brought me over to America, and that was a really crucial sort of project for me. It was a really great character to get as a teenager, and really I'm sort of I mean, that director Rodrigo Garcia really gave me a huge break there, and then from there I've always lived in Australia, but I've managed to sort of continue to get work in America and come back here. But I'd say in treatment, and then Alice and Kids Are Alright were all really important.
And speaking about Rodrigo, you actually are working with him again, aren't you? You're about to start working with him?
Yeah, no, I just finished.
Okay.
We shot a film called Albert Nobbs in Ireland, which is Glenn Close's sort of passion project. She's had the script for about 10 years, and and we just finished shooting it. So it was great to work with him again. And,
Terrific, and I know you're very, very busy with a lot of other films, Gus Van Sant, et cetera, et cetera. Any more questions? Just a few more questions here before we wrap things up. Gentlemen, right here.
You may have touched on the answer. You may have touched on the answer for this already, but I was wondering how the project came together. Did you decide I want to do this film and approach focus, or were you tapped to be the director? And on your 2 cast choices, did you have full control over that? This is what I want. I'm curious how that all came together.
I did my last film with Focus, Sin Nombre, so I already had a working relationship with them. I was in the UK doing promotions for that film. I decided I wanted to stay out there for a while. And and I met with the BBC, and I found out it was on their slate, and Jane Eyre was one of the films. And Jane Eyre, the 44 version by Bob Stevens, is one of my favorite films growing up. So I asked to meet with the producer and the writer of the project. And there was a director previously attached, but what often happens with films and scripts is that they attach directors, and if they don't get the right cast or the right sort of balance, the film just never gets financed, never gets made. And this has been kind of going around for a couple of years. It was the first script that Maura Buffini had written, who's the screenplay writer of the film, and didn't get picked up, basically. And the next screenplay she wrote got made this last year, Tamara Drew. That was her second screenplay. So when I got involved with it, I told Focus, this is a project I'm interested in, and then Focus decided to finance it. So that's how that happened. And then in terms of like control over the casting, they never told me who to cast. So it was more, we presented them with the ideas of who we wanted to cast, but that wasn't contingent upon the financing, or the financing wasn't contingent upon who we cast, because that was already going before I cast.
Sounds like an ideal way to put the project together. You wanted to do it and then pick these people and they went with it.
It seems too easy. I mean, she said it seems like an ideal way for it to happen. But the same thing happened with my last film. This, not saying like I'm bragging, but I mean, like, it just seemed like I haven't had to pitch yet on a film. And on Sin Nombre, I had coffee with the president of Focus, and he asked me if I was interested in making the movie there. I said, I'll show him the script when I'm done. And then it turned out they'd already read it, and they wanted to finance it. So it just got made. And the same thing with this one. I just mentioned, kind of like in a 2-line email to Focus, the same guy that wanted to make this film, and then they put in like 2/3 of the financing.
It's got a great handwriting.
I just got to remember to write thank you cards every year. So, it's, note to self. I got to do that one.
Gotta ask, let's see, yes, this, I'll have, okay, 2 more questions.
This woman's really waving her hand.
This lady, all right, all the way at the back of the, right on the end there.
Thank you.
Sure.
I have a couple of questions. First of all, you had asked the Cary a question earlier, and I didn't hear the answer, maybe didn't get to it. How long was the shoot? How many days? Or months?
We're on 11-day fortnights. For Americans, fortnights are 2 weeks. That means we were shooting 5-day and 6-day weeks, even though it seemed like it was always 6-day weeks.
Yeah, but how long was the total shoot?
Yeah, I'm trying to do some math right now in my head. So if we're on 11-day fortnights and there was 8 weeks, that means that times 4, so 44 days.
Wow. I wanted to ask you about you and your DP. So many of the interior shots look like a Vermeer or a Caravaggio painting. Was that a conscious effort on your part? Because it evoked all of that for me.
Well, Vermeer often painted paintings next to windows, and Caravaggio with candles. And, that's like the lighting that you would have interior day and night. So, in this time period, gas lights and candle lights. So it wasn't like I never referenced those paintings with my cinematographer. But they are pretty paintings. And we try to make pretty pictures too, in the effect. I'm not being facetious. I mean, like, literally, like, I don't really have many photo references when we shoot. We just kind of talk about what we want to do and then just go for it. I think in this film, the only thing we talked about was symmetrical frames. And like squares within squares. There's a lot of like shooting through doorways. Because we really wanted to shoot 4:3, but then, then you lose this part and this part of the screen. So instead of shooting 4:3, we just shot through doors.
Shooting through doors is so provocative. And for me, the whole look of the film was so stunningly beautiful.
Thank you.
All right, we've got one last question here before we let everybody go. And lady in the center right here, last question, please.
Yeah. This is a question for Cary. I had read that you commented on the 1944 film that you wouldn't make a film like that anymore, and I wondered if you could expand on that a little bit.
I just meant in terms of like the style of cinema then, especially the acting, is like, it's very arch. So, what I meant probably, I'm not sure what the context of the quote was, but it was probably more along the lines of like, you have Rochester screaming in the film, or you have Orson Welles going, Jane! Jane! And when I read that part of the script, I'm like, how the hell am I going to pull this off? It's like on the 2011.
Right.
So we talked about a lot with Michael and Jane. So that shows you what acting has become from 44 to 2011.
Oh, I want to thank Mia Wasikowska. I want to thank Cary Fukunaga. And all of you for being here. Great questions tonight. Thank you very much. Drive home safely.